Anniversary package. 3 boxes of condoms, VIP suite, 15th floor, 4 p.m. The thought of this delivery struck me as odd, considering it was our anniversary. I reached the suite and knocked at the door. And then, the door swung open. There, standing before me, was Elena, my wife. I was born into a world of power, wealth, and influence, where my family operated in the shadows, shaping the world from behind the scenes. Our name was a secret, known only to us, and revealing it was forbidden. For centuries, we had quietly controlled industries, governments, and economies, without anyone being the wiser. My destiny was clear, but it was one I couldn't acknowledge, let alone flaunt. From a young age, I was trained to lead, not just with wealth, but with power. Starting at age 4, my education was a rigorous mix of languages, history, combat, psychology, and diplomacy. I wasn't taught just what was in textbooks, but the hidden stories and tactics that built empires. My family's legacy demanded more than just academic knowledge. I had to master the art of control. We were trained to understand people, manipulate industries, and even influence entire nations, all while remaining invisible. The key rule: never let anyone know who we were. Our empire would fall if that secret was ever exposed. For most of my life, I lived as an ordinary person. My family's wealth and status were off-limit. I couldn't use our resources, despite their vastness. The goal was to shape me into someone who could lead without relying on privilege. I had to earn everything on my own. At 24, I entered the final phase of my training, poverty training. It was the harshest test, a painful immersion into a world far removed from the life I was born into. I spent 3 years working in the slums, doing menial jobs, delivering packages, cleaning homes, and earning no recognition. It was a test of endurance and humility, a lesson in the realities of a life without privilege. I wasn't allowed to reveal my true identity, so I became just another face in the crowd, unknown to those around me. Yet, amidst the struggle, there was something strangely rewarding about it. The pride in completing a task, the satisfaction of hard work, it was something I had never known. I saw the world through the eyes of those who weren't born into power. It was eye-opening, but I never lost sight of the future that awaited me. As the end of my training approached, a stirring grew inside me. I had learned the lessons my family intended, but I also began to feel the weight of the legacy I would inherit. Soon, I would be the one at the head of everything, the future of an empire resting in my hands. The life I had been trained for, the life of power and control, was almost within reach. But the question remained, was I truly ready to claim it? A marriage of duty. 3 years ago, I married Elena, not out of love but as part of a strategic alliance between 2 powerful families. Her family, influential and wealthy, had arranged the marriage through her grandfather. It was a transaction designed to strengthen our connection and ensure mutual dominance. Elena was beautiful, composed, and seemingly perfect on the outside, but there was an emotional distance between us that I could never bridge. From the moment we married, she kept me at arm's length, no intimacy, no warmth. We lived separate lives, with separate rooms, and I endured the mockery of her family, who belittled me for not having the right kind of wealth, oblivious to what I was truly capable of. I worked hard to win her affection. I cooked, cleaned, and did everything to show my loyalty and devotion, thinking that if I sacrificed enough, she would eventually see me for who I truly was, a man worthy of her love and respect. But as time passed, I realized she wasn't interested. She used me, and her family treated me with disdain. They called me a failure and tolerated me at best, mocking me at worst. Still, I believed in the lie, that if I kept trying, things would change. I gave her everything, enduring the insults and the emotional distance. My mind often raced with thoughts of revealing my true identity, thinking that if she knew who I really was, everything would shift. But the rules were clear. I couldn't reveal who I was, not to her or anyone. My family's legacy demanded secrecy, and I had to remain hidden until the right moment. The last day of training. Today, I would finally face my future. It was the last day of my poverty training, and the day I planned to reveal the truth to Elena, who I was, what I had endured, and what I would become. It was time to end the charade. Standing at the doorstep of our modest apartment, I felt the weight of the moment. The life I had been born into, full of wealth and power, seemed like a distant dream. The worn-out shoes I'd been forced to wear for 3 years symbolized everything I despised about my current existence. The sweat on my brow wasn't from hard work, but from the heavy decision I was about to make. I had had enough. 3 years of marriage to Elena had been a struggle. I thought my efforts would break down the walls she had built between us. But despite all my sacrifices, nothing changed. Elena was as cold and indifferent as the marble floors of her family's estate. No matter what I did, I couldn't get close. I had hoped I could win her over with time and dedication, but I now knew the truth. Her heart was frozen, and there was no breaking through. Today, I would reveal everything, my true identity, my family's legacy, and the life I was destined for. After years of sacrifice, it was time to stop hiding. I glanced at my phone, feeling a mixture of dread and anticipation. The screen blinked with a reminder. Anniversary package. 3 boxes of condoms, VIP suite, 15th floor, 4 p.m. The thought of this delivery struck me as odd, considering it was our anniversary. I had no idea why such a package had been ordered or who it was for. The message sent a pang of discomfort through me, but I shook it off, determined not to let it derail my plan. Today, I would no longer remain the humble servant. Today, Elena and her family would see the man I truly was, the heir to an empire they could never imagine, the one who had endured it all without revealing a single hint of his true potential. I arrived at the luxury hotel, the air growing thicker with the scent of money and power. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like a journey into another world. This was a realm where opulence, wealth, and status ruled every detail, from the polished marble floors to the soft golden lighting. I felt a wave of revulsion sweep over me. This was the world I had been born into but had been kept from, locked away behind the constraints of secrecy. As I rode higher, I felt like an imposter, a fraud. Soon, though, that would all change. I reached the suite and knocked at the door. My heart pounded in my chest as I waited for the sound of footsteps approaching from the other side. And then, the door swung open. At first, I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. There, standing before me, was Elena, my wife. But this was not the Elena I knew, cold, distant, and aloof. No, this woman was different. Her hair was wet, clinging to her shoulders as though she had just stepped out of the shower. She was wearing nothing but a towel, the fabric barely covering her body. The soft scent of soap and shampoo lingered in the air, mixing with the intoxicating smell of her skin. For a moment I stood frozen, caught between disbelief and anger. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. This wasn't the Elena I had known for the past 3 years. This was a version of her I had never seen, vulnerable, yet still detached. But it was the man who stepped into view behind her that truly shattered my composure. He was wearing nothing but a bathrobe, his grin too self-assured, too smug for my liking. He wasn't just anyone. He was David, a well-known socialite from a wealthy family with ties to Elena's. They had met on various occasions, and I had always felt a sense of unease around him. His flirtatious nature, the way he seemed to smile just a little too much, made me uncomfortable, but I had brushed it off. It was nothing, I had convinced myself. I was nothing more than a delivery man to them, an unworthy and insignificant husband in their eyes. But now, standing in front of me, the situation was clear. The smug smile David wore, the way he casually approached Elena and placed a hand around her waist, holding her close as if they had all the time in the world. It all came crashing down in an instant. He looked at me, then at Elena, as though we were all actors in some private theater. "You're here," he said, his voice laced with mockery. "You got the condoms?" His words hit me like a slap, but it was the way he said it, so casually, as if there were no consequences, that made the blood rush to my head. I felt a surge of rage, but I held it in check for now. Elena stood beside him, her expression indifferent. She wasn't embarrassed, she wasn't flustered. She didn't seem to care. If anything, she almost seemed bored by my presence. There was no sense of guilt, no attempt to explain or hide the truth. It was as if the situation wasn't even worth addressing. The silence between us was deafening. I clenched my fists at my sides, trying to maintain control. I had spent 3 years working, hoping, fighting to build something with her, and this was what I got in return. The truth was right there in front of me. She had never cared about me. This was just a charade, a transaction for her. "You think this is okay?" I finally managed to say, my voice cold but steady. "That you can do whatever you want behind my back and not face any consequences?" Elena didn't even flinch. She simply crossed her arms and looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of indifference and mild annoyance. "You're overreacting," she said dismissively, her tone like ice. "We're just having a little fun. It's nothing personal." The words hit me like a dagger. Nothing personal. After everything, after all the sacrifices, after years of loyalty, I was nothing more than a joke to her. David chuckled softly, as if to add fuel to the fire. "Relax, man," he said. "It's just the way things are. You're a delivery boy. She's a woman of means. You can't expect her to be loyal to someone like you." My chest tightened with anger and humiliation. The cruel irony was that they didn't even know who I really was. They had no idea what I was capable of, what I had been trained for, and what I was about to become. I took a deep breath, standing straighter. This was it. The moment had arrived. It was time to end this farce. "I'm not just a delivery boy," I said, my voice calm, but the fury burning beneath the surface was undeniable. "I'm someone you will never understand." I turned on my heel and walked out of the room, the weight of the world on my shoulders. Elena didn't call after me, and David didn't stop me. It was clear to me now, this marriage was over. There would be no reconciliation. No forgiveness. I had given everything, and it had been wasted. As I left the hotel, I finally allowed myself to feel the full extent of the heartbreak. My entire world had just collapsed. But deep down, I knew something else. The future was mine now. And the game was about to change. The aftermath. The days after that night were a blur, clouded by disbelief and anger. The image of what I'd witnessed in the hotel room replayed endlessly. I had hoped it was a misunderstanding, but now there was no denying it. The betrayal was crushing, and I struggled to hold onto what was left of myself. Elena, the woman I had devoted my heart to, was not who I thought she was. She had been everything I wanted. Beautiful, intelligent, poised. But now I saw a woman who had deceived me from the start, someone who used me. I didn't know whether to hate her or myself for not seeing it sooner. I had spent years fighting for her affection, enduring insults from her family, believing if I just showed enough patience, she'd eventually soften. But now I saw it clearly. My love for her had been one-sided from the start. Despite the heartbreak and rage, there was something I had to do. It was time to reveal who I truly was, the heir to a fortune greater than she could ever imagine. No more pretending to be the humble man, no more hiding behind a mask of poverty. It was time to confront the truth. That night, I called Elena to meet me. She arrived, confusion and expectation written on her face. She probably sensed something was wrong but had no idea how much her world was about to change. When she walked in, I was standing by the window looking out at the city. The life I had tried to build with Elena seemed so distant now. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't the same man who had walked into her life 3 years ago. I wasn't the quiet, obedient husband anymore. I turned to face her. "Sit down," I said firmly, with a finality that made her hesitate. She sat, folding her hands in her lap. "What is this about?" she asked, her voice low. She probably thought I was about to confront her affair, but she had no idea what was coming. "I'm not who you think I am," I said, bitterness in my voice. "I'm not just some nobody. I'm the heir to the Parker family, the family you've insulted and belittled for years." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" she stammered. "You've been living a lie, Elena. For the last 3 years, you've believed I was a poor man. But I'm the head of one of the most powerful families in the country. And now that you know, there's no going back." Her face went pale as she tried to process the revelation. I stepped closer. "I've been living as a common man, pretending for you, while you treated me like a servant. But that ends now. It's over." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked lost, fear in her eyes, the fear of losing everything she knew. "I want a divorce," I said firmly. "We're done." She looked shocked. "But we've been married for 3 years. You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. "You never loved me. Not the way I loved you. I've been a fool, but not anymore." Desperation flashed in her eyes. She stepped toward me, pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. It was just easier this way. I thought I could handle it, play the role." "You didn't want to hurt me?" I asked, bitterness rising. "You used me. You wanted me to play the perfect husband while you slept with David. You used me, Elena." Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. My decision was final. "And as for you and your family," I added coldly, "I'll pretend I never knew you." With that, I walked out, leaving the past behind. My marriage had been nothing more than a shadow. Elena had never been the woman I thought she was, and I could no longer be the man who allowed myself to be used. As I stepped into the night, the cool air hit my face like a slap. It felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I felt free. A hidden truth revealed. After the divorce, my life took an unexpected turn. The betrayal lingered, its sting refusing to fade. The life I had once dreamed of with Elena now felt like an illusion, a facade built on lies. The anger, humiliation, and disappointment still haunted me, but as I tried to rebuild, I focused on the future. Then, something I hadn't planned for changed everything. One afternoon, while sorting through old family documents, I found a file from 5 years ago. At first, I thought it was just another routine set of instructions from my family's advisors. But as I read, memories flooded back about my family's war training, a brutal program meant to prepare me for the ruthless world we lived in. It wasn't just about physical conditioning or strategy, it was about control and power. As part of the training, I'd been paired with a young woman from another powerful family. She was stunning, unforgettable, with dark hair and piercing eyes. We were sent to complete a mission together, in a remote location far from civilization. It wasn't supposed to be personal, but something about her made it impossible to ignore the connection between us. That night we crossed a line. It wasn't romantic, just part of the training, but the consequences were far from what I expected. Months later, I received a letter from her. She was pregnant and had decided to keep the child. The news hit me like a wave, leaving me overwhelmed with surprise, guilt, and confusion. I hadn't even considered the possibility. But the reality was clear. This child, my child, was now a part of my life. At first, I wasn't sure how to handle it. I was still reeling from my divorce and the pain of the past. But as time passed, I began to connect with her more. We communicated frequently, not just about the pregnancy, but our fears, our pasts, and our lives. She was strong, independent, and had her own history with family manipulation, yet she had chosen love by keeping the child. That spoke volumes to me. When I held my daughter for the first time, everything changed. She was tiny, beautiful, a perfect blend of her mother and me. In that moment, all the pain from the past melted away. I understood now. This was my real family, one built on love, not power or obligation. The bond with her mother grew stronger over time. She had taught me what it meant to love without control or expectation, opening my eyes to a new world, one where love was the center, not a means to an end. Then, Elena and her family found out about my daughter. They came, apologizing for everything they had done, the insults, the cruelty, the lies. They begged for forgiveness, asked for another chance. But I didn't care. Their apologies meant nothing. They weren't sorry for what they had done, they were sorry because they had lost their hold over me. I wasn't the man they once knew. I had found something real, something they could never be a part of. I ignored their apologies, their calls, and their messages. I didn't need them. I had a new life, one built on trust, love, and respect. My daughter and the woman who had stood by me were my family now. And as I held my daughter, I knew that everything I had been through, the pain, the betrayal, had led me to this moment. This was my true legacy, not the family empire or wealth I once thought mattered, but the love I had found in my new life. Now I had everything I needed. A daughter, a woman who loved me, and the freedom to live life on my own terms.